Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Would you please welcome the Vice President of Engineering, Jeff Huber.
Thank you, God Voice, for that introduction. As mentioned, I am Jeff Huber, VP of Engineering at Google, responsible for products like Google Apps, Calendar, Gmail, Docs and Spreadsheets, our advertising products, AdWords and AdSense, and many of the developer products that you'll see today. I'm very excited to be here with you today. Looking forward to the sessions that we have planned. We've got a lot that we want to cover in this presentation, and there's a very exciting day planned. But before jumping into that, I did just want to take a brief opportunity to say thank you to Googlers around the world who put in so many hours to make this a great event. We're really looking forward to it. Thank you. So we're broadcasting this presentation live right now to London, Paris, Hamburg, and Madrid. So a very warm welcome to all of our developer colleagues in Europe. When we were planning this event, we put a lot of thought and effort into how do we get developers from around the world to come here to the San Francisco Bay Area to share in this event. And in typical googly distributed systems thinking, one of the engineers suggested, instead of bringing all of the developers to the conference, why don't we bring the conference to the developers? That seemed like a great idea, so we did that. Today's Developer Day is actually happening in 10 cities around the world, from Sydney to Tokyo to Beijing to Moscow and Sao Paulo. Altogether, there's 1,500 of you here today, and over 5,000 developers worldwide participating in these events. There's over 160 sessions that we have planned across all of the Developer Day activities. And also in the spirit of Google, all of these events are completely free and, of course, come with free food. So when we were first planning the event, we were expecting that we would have a cozy little event probably on Google's campus, maybe a couple hundred people. But we were really blown away with the kind of enthusiasm and the reception that we saw with your reservations for the event. So we had to scramble at the last minute to rent the convention center that we're in here today. I think that kind of reception that we saw demonstrates the growth of Google's developer programs. This is the first worldwide Google Developer Day. But the first event ever that we had was last year, right around this time, where we had an event called Geo Developer Day that had about 200 developers that came to our campus in Mountain View just shortly after O'Reilly's Where 2.0 event last year. Primarily developers who were interested in the Maps API and KML and Google Earth. Now, just a year later, we've got 10 times as many developer products to talk about and share with you today, and 25 times as many participants in this event. It's just really pretty amazing. And I think that that kind of growth, just for us, underscores how powerful and mutually beneficial having a healthy developer program like this can be. It's a really exciting and inspiring time to work at Google and to see the growth of this developer ecosystem. In the early days of Google, we stuck our toes in APIs and developer products, but it really wasn't until about 2005 where we really found our identity with developer products. That said, it didn't start with an API. It actually started with one of our products, specifically Google Maps. Google Maps was a really significant product for end users because particularly it was a significant product for end users because it brought an entirely new set of information, a new way of interacting with geographic information. It was also very significant, though, from a developer perspective because it really opened people's eyes, particularly building on the release of Gmail that had come a bit earlier, on the power and potential of what came to be known as AJAX applications, where you could have a very rich experience in the browser. And there were a small set of very energetic developers that were so excited about Google Maps as a product that they reverse engineered the API that was essentially buried within the JavaScript of the Maps application and started doing what came to be known as mashups. One of those developers was a very bright engineer named Paul Rademacher, who developed an application called Housing Maps. Paul was a big fan of maps. He also was looking for an apartment, and he wanted something that would put those two things together, to mash those together so that he could visualize where different apartments were. I remember when Housing Maps was first passed around, emailed around in Google, everyone thought it was pretty amazing, but in particular, the Maps team was just blown away with how cool it was. And it led us to think, if developers will jump through hoops, over hurdles to get access to this kind of product and or this kind of capability, what would happen if we put our effort behind a real API and turn this into a building block that anybody could use for creating these kind of applications? So that's what we did. We created the Maps API. It's been a spectacular success. There's over 50,000 sites across the internet now that are using the Maps API to do really interesting applications. But more broadly, it inspired us to think across all of our products about Google's products and services as building blocks that developers can use. 2006 was a spectacular year for this, that saw, among other things, us introducing the AJAX search API, that you can embed search in your sites and in your applications with a few lines of JavaScript. And very significantly, the emergence of what we call the Google Data APIs or the GData APIs, where nearly now all of our services are exposed as web services that you can use as developers to create your applications. And we're just getting started on 2007. We've had some very nice releases in that already. And we have several new products that we'll talk more about today in the course of the keynote. But before we jump into that, I think it's worth taking a step back and looking at the evolution of development over the last several years. It's no mistake that many of Google's APIs are associated with mashups. Mashups are really becoming the model that developers are using to create and compose their applications. If you're a developer today, you're probably not creating all of the infrastructure that you need to make your application work. Instead, you're starting from building blocks. Some of those are open source building blocks. You're probably using Apache as your web server. You're probably using MySQL as a database. You're probably using Linux as the operating system underneath that. You're choosing from a set of proven development languages, things like Ruby and Python and PHP and Java to create your applications. You're also choosing from among a set of web services as building blocks for creating your application. We as Google have a set that we'll talk a bunch more about today that we're very excited of and proud about, but you can also choose things like Amazon S3 for storage, Yahoo Pipes for handling and managing feeds. Even your business model, how you make money, can be a building block if you use something like AdSense, targeted advertising system, for how you make money. Putting all of these things together, it is a new model. By being able to leverage these building blocks, you're able to create amazing applications in probably a tenth the time that it would have taken you previously. We're very excited about this new model of development and the corresponding business models that come along with it. Our developer programs are really about making this building block model work and enhancing it and making it better, whether it's exposing our services as building blocks that you can use, or working to make open source a richer and richer community and the products that are better and better with things like our Summer of Code effort that we've ran over the last several years. So to that end, we have a set of developer products that we focus in 3 different areas where we think that we can provide unique value to developers working in this new model. The first is integrate, the ability to take Google services, Google infrastructure, and use it as building blocks to create your applications, create great services for your users. The second is reach. After developers say they want great services for being able to compose their products, they say, how do I get distribution for my product? How do I get traffic to my site? How do I acquire new customers? We have a set of offerings there that we'll talk some more about. The third area is building this next generation of great web-based applications. We provide general tools to help you do that better. We'll have announcements in each of these areas in the balance of the keynote today. But before we get to that, this is Google. Google's about innovation, so we've got a bunch of new products that we want to introduce first. We've got 6 of them right here. So for runners, we've got Jog Planner. For homeless people, we've got Apartment Finder. For geographically challenged moviegoers, we've got movie maps. For photo takers, we've got an online photo editor. For people who have devices, we've got a syncing service. And for anyone that walked here, we've got used cars. Well, not really. These are examples of products that users want today that developers, passionate developers, are creating for them, but they're using Google's building blocks to create those, to get there faster and to make great products for those users. So we'll go through some examples actually using these, but these were created by developers with Google services. The first few examples are using the Maps API. Great example is walkjogrun.net, which is for runners to plan out their running sites. This uses Google Maps. It also uses Amazon S3 as its backend. Another great site for bikers is veloroutes.org, that a similar theme. Housing Maps is another great example of using the Maps API. We touched on it earlier, but this is really the granddaddy of them all from a mashup perspective, and a very, very useful service. For moviegoers, Boston Globe is putting a movie finder that displays movie times right in the context of the movie reviews that they do in the Boston Globe. Very useful service. The next examples will be using the GData APIs. We touched on GData briefly, but this is really, if you think back to the timeline, this is an area we've seen a lot of growth over the last couple of years. GData is a single RESTful web service model. Uses the Atom publishing protocol and extensions to it, and uses essentially an RSS model for reading and writing from Google's applications. So you can use Google and Google services as your building blocks for applications. We've, over the last year or so, introduced 8 different products. Just about all of our products are exposed today. From a developer perspective, the great thing is that you can have a single library that you integrate in your application that gives you access to all of Google services as building blocks today and any things that we introduce in the future. So some examples of people using the GData APIs include Picnic, which is a great online photo editor. In this case, using the Picasa Web Albums API, GData API. Instead of the typical model that you would have to think about of there's a photo online I want to do something with, I have to download it to my desktop, I have to do my editing there, I need to re-upload it. This instead, using the GData APIs, makes it seamless from a user perspective, where it links into Picasa, pulls the photos over, you do the editing, it'll push them back from a user perspective. You don't have to worry about or think about anything. Another great example is Spanning Sync. Google Calendar has been an enormously popular product that we introduced about a year ago. With the GData API, Spanning Sync was able to create a syncing mechanism to make it work with iCal and iSync on the Mac. So you can now sync your calendar to not only iCal, but to mobile devices, to your iPod, et cetera. Another example, this one was fairly ambitious. Honda was interested in providing a service for selling used cars. They're using the Google Base GData API and Google Maps for visualizing where the cars are. With this sort of approach, they were able to spare the hassle of provisioning database machines, setting up custom search, because Google was able to do all of that for them. They were able to concentrate on the application that they wanted to build. So with this mashup model, we're very excited about the kind of capabilities it brings, how it lets you focus on the application that you want to create. This leads us to the first product announcement that we have today, which is an experimental product called Mashup Editor. Mashup Editor is an online editor that lets you create mashups, UIs, and applications in just a few lines of XML. And here's Paul McDonald to tell you more.
Thanks, Jeff. So as Jeff mentioned, GData is a really important piece of Google's developer strategy. It's the way that we expose our data to you, our developers. But what if you want to take that data and mash it up with something else? Well, there are a lot of other things that you need to do before that can actually happen. You need to set up a server and hosting. You probably want to set up a database for your end user data and maybe authentication as well. You're going to want a nice AJAX interface, so you have to brush up on your AJAX skills in JavaScript. You're going to want to deal with feeds, so you have to know the difference between Atom and RSS, be able to cache, parse, and then manipulate that data on the server. And then finally, you want to actually test, deploy, and distribute your applications so that everyone can see them. While each of these things isn't difficult on its own, taken together, it's a pretty complex task. And we want to simplify that. So today, I want to introduce you to an experimental product we're calling the Google Mashup Editor. Let me show you how it works. Now, let's say, for example, you wanted to create a mashup of California state parks. It takes a feed from an external source, plots it on a Google map, shows a list of those parks, and then allows your end users to search for products from Google Base, like camping gear or hiking gear. If we can pull up the editor here, I'd start with the user interface first. So I'd create a simple HTML table with a list, a map, and then some search results below it. You can see in the editor here, I've created that table. And you can put any HTML, JavaScript, or CSS in the editor, along with our extended XML tags. So here I have two of those tags. You can see it's called GMList and GMMap. The list and the map tags take a feed, and they display that feed data in different ways. So for example, the list will display, for every entry in the feed, a row in the list. And the map for every entry in the feed will display a marker on the map. Let me test that and show you how it works. So what's happening here is we're actually saving the data, sending it out to Google servers, and loading it in a sandbox so you can actually test it. So here I have a simple HTML table, and the map and the list are loading. There you go. So in 2 lines of code, we created a mashup. Now, everyone knows that mashups have interaction generally between these components. So let me go back and add that. If I go back to the editor, pull up this other project, it's the same exact project. I've just added one more tag, and this is our GM handle events tag. And what this does is add interaction between 2 of our UI components. So here, basically what's going to happen is when you click on something on the list, it will focus on the element in the map. I'll test it again. And again, this is saving the data, loading it to our servers, and creating an HTML page that you serve in our sandbox. And you can test the data again. So if I click on one of these elements in the list, it focuses on the map. So a very simple maps mashup. This is a standard maps mashup that we did in 3 lines of code and a little bit of HTML structure around it. One more thing, let's go back and add the search. So in our final example here, we have the search. We've added 2 more tags, a GM search and a GM list. Now the search goes out and fetches a feed from Google Base in this case, and the list will display those results in that feed. I'll test this one final time. Again, compiling this into an HTML page that we serve in our sandbox. So here it's loaded. Now we have this little search box. I can type in tents. This pulls some results from Google Base, and now we have Google Base search results right below it. So again, about 6 lines of code, we created a really nice mashup. You can format the data any way you want, put any HTML, JavaScript, or CSS in here. And then when you're finally done testing your mashup, you can publish it to Google's infrastructure. So you can serve your mashup off of googlemashups.com or create a Google gadget out of it and use the Google personalized homepage, iGoogle, to actually show it. Jeff?
Cool. Thanks, Paul.
No problem.
Very impressive. OK, so that wraps up the first area of focus for us, which is products that developer products that you can use to integrate as building blocks in your application. Turning to the second area, which is reach. We touched upon this earlier, but we hear a lot of developers after they've made their great application saying, OK, now I need customers, I need users. How do I get traffic to my product? How to get traffic to my site? Some good news in this is that Google has a lot of traffic. According to the recent ComScore stats, Google as a network has now become the largest network. Over 500 million unique visitors come to Google every month. 500 million. Some good news is that we like to share. And specifically, one of the things that we've done that's most exciting in this area is the Gadgets API. Gadgets are most prominently seen on the iGoogle homepage. As a product, this has been enormously successful. It's really taken off. And one of the reasons for that is because it's a very open model. Over 100,000 gadgets have been created, and they've been very popular with users. We've really been blown away with the kind of traffic that they can generate. A couple of examples. This is one that I have on my homepage. Seems pretty simple. Old school video game. This gadget generated 6.7 million page views for its author last week. Another fun little application, very useful, to-do list manager. I have it on my homepage, so I can use it every time that I come in and start my internet experience. On my homepage. This gadget generated 4.7 million page views for its author last week. A little bit more of a commercial example. Many people are using this. Expedia created a fare calendar where for people who use Expedia, you can specify a couple of destinations, and they'll update every time you start off on the internet the latest fares between destinations that you're interested in. So you can get a great deal on that trip that I'm sure that you deserve. This has been a great way for them to engage with their users, to provide information for them that's very useful, and to drive a lot of traffic to their site. But it's not just about the iGoogle homepage. Gadgets are really becoming a fundamental part of Google. You're able to embed them just about, or many places today, and in the future, just about everywhere. Here's an example of a user creating pages with Google Page Creator. You can take gadgets, drop them in that experience. They work there. If you're a blog writer, you can put gadgets in your Blogger blog. If you're using Google Desktop, you can use gadgets in Google Desktop and drag them onto your desktop so that they work there all the time. And they work across the web. You can take any gadget with a couple of lines of HTML, JavaScript, embed it in your site, wherever it may be, and it's served by Google. So this is becoming a very powerful model. Some of the pundits lately have been talking about the gadget economy. This is really happening, and it's a great way for you to take parts of your application, get them exposed to users, generate a lot of traffic, drive traffic to your site. That leads us to the second announcement that we have today, which is Maplets. Maplets bring gadgets to maps and pours just more gasoline on the fire that is gadgets. Ty, take it away.
All right, thank you. So on the Google Maps and Earth team, one of our main goals is to enable the creation of the GeoWeb. As part of this, we've released tools such as KML and the Google Maps API, which have enabled tens of thousands of developers to author geospatial content. And recently, we've introduced the ability to search over the KML files on the web so that users can discover all this great content that you've created. And this week, we've introduced the next step in this vision, and that's Maplets. With Maplets, we've combined the Google Gadgets API with the Google Maps API to allow you to bring your mashups to the millions of users on Google Maps who are looking for your content. For example, one of the top queries on Google Maps is hotels. And this has always surprised me because we don't have information on hotel pricing and availability. But I think the reason why this query is so popular is because location is such a critical piece of information when you're trying to decide where to stay. That's why I'm excited today to show you a maplet that Orbitz is currently building. Okay. This box at the bottom here is a Google gadget. It's basically an iframe that contains a mini web page that Orbitz can put whatever they want inside of it. And now I'm going to search for hotels near San Francisco Airport. Then the Maplets API allows Orbitz to put their results on a Google map. Right? So I'm going to click on one of the hotels that are near the airport. So you can see I can stay at the MC Suites Hotel for $169 a night. And if I were to click on this booking link here, it would take me to Orbitz's website to complete the transaction. So you might ask, so why is this interesting? Because Orbitz could have just used the Google Maps API to build this application on their own website. Well, what's powerful about this programming approach is that I can combine the information from multiple sites on the same map. So I'm going to show you another maplet. This one is created by WeatherBug, which operates in a network of thousands of weather stations. So now on the same map, I'm seeing both the hotels as well as the temperatures. Now, in a place like the San Francisco Bay Area, we have a lot of different microclimates. So on any given day, there can be up to a 10-degree difference in temperature depending on where you're located, and that might influence where you might want to stay. And now I'm going to click on one of the weather markers, and you'll notice WeatherBug has a pretty sophisticated implementation. They're actually running Flash inside the info windows, and this is actually telling me the current readings from their weather stations. Now, if you go back to the hotel that I was looking at, you'll notice at the bottom of the info windows, we've added links for driving directions and local search. So I can look for things to do near my hotel. So say, for example, I'm going to search for restaurants. Right. So at the center of my map, you still see my hotel. And then the red markers are Google local search results for restaurants. So you can see there's a restaurant very close by, but it's only 3 stars. But if I want to go a little bit further away, there's another restaurant that's 5 stars. So what I've done here is I've combined Orbitz, one of the leading travel booking engines, with WeatherBug, which has one of the most comprehensive weather networks in the United States, with Google Maps, the best tool for finding local information. And this combination is more useful than any of the sites by themselves. So we call this enabling a mashup of mashups. And you can try it out for yourself today at maps.google.com/preview. And we'd love to tell you more about it at our session this afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, Ty. Thank you, Ty. So we've covered 2 of the 3 areas so far. The first being integrate. How do you use Google's building blocks to create great applications faster for your users? Reach. How do you build your audience? How do you attract more traffic? How do you tap into the 500 million people that are coming to Google every month? The third area is build, which is how can we provide tools that enable you to build the next generation of web applications better, faster, easier, more scalably. The most notable offering that we have, or most notable thing that we've been working on is an open source effort called Google Web Toolkit. Specifically, Google Web Toolkit lets you do your development in Java and then compiles the results of what you've written into JavaScript and into HTML for deployment. The beauty of that is that with Ajax development today, if you're doing things directly, there are quirks in different browser implementations, in different JavaScript implementations, and it can be a sometimes tedious or error-prone process. By using Google Web Toolkit, you're able to write it in one language using tools and debugging tools that you're very familiar with and are very efficient, and then able to deploy. And we're able to abstract away those idiosyncrasies. Google Web Toolkit launched about a year ago. We just passed the first anniversary. And we also hit a major milestone with it, which was hitting 1 million downloads of Google Web Toolkit. So this is really being adopted and has a very rich and vibrant developer community around it. That, though, leads us to a problem. So AJAX applications, web applications are great, but they're not quite as great when you're not on the web, when you're not online. So one of the limits is illustrated here. We sure hope there's no snakes on that plane, but there's probably not any AJAX applications today either. Our third announcement helps address that, which is Gears. Gears is a technology that lets you take your web applications offline, makes them work offline so that your web apps, AJAX apps, can work when your users are disconnected or even on poor or slow connections. It's a cross-browser, cross-platform model. This is open source from the very beginning, specifically BSD license. So we look forward to your participation in this and making it better. It is an evolutionary approach. You can take your applications today and make them work offline. We also feel very strongly about this being an industry effort and being a standard. We want this to be the one way that developers can add offline capabilities to their applications. We'll talk more in a bit about the industry participation and standard side of it. But now to tell and show you more, here's Othman Laraki.
Thanks, Jeff. So we're very excited to be launching Google Gears today. Google Gears is a browser extension which allows web applications to work offline. As Jeff mentioned, Gears works on all the major browsers, so Firefox, Internet Explorer, and Safari, as well as on all the major platforms, so Mac, Linux, and Windows. We're launching Gears today as an open source project because we want to involve the full community into evolving this into a solution that works for everyone and suits everyone's needs. So what we're launching today reflects the current thinking from the Google end of things, but to come up with a solution that actually works for everyone, we want to involve the full community. I'll show a demo in a minute, but first, one of the key points with Google Gears is that we want this to be an evolutionary approach. We like the internet or the web the way it is today. We just want it to work better and want it to work offline. It's evolutionary in two ways. First, it's evolutionary from a user standpoint. For end users, we want to enable users to continue using their applications like they do today. You just open up your browser, go to a URL, and your application comes up. You don't need to really worry about whether you have a network connection. Also, from a developer standpoint, we want to enable developers to continue using their existing skills. So Gears offers a JavaScript API. It exposes all the functionality through a JavaScript API. So developers can use their existing skills as well as leverage their existing code base and simply adapt that to be able to make their applications work offline. So now I'll jump to a demo. If you've seen any of the news releases this morning, we're launching at the same time as Gears Google Reader offline. And so if you go to Reader today, so this is already public. So if you go to reader.google.com or google.com/reader, you will see that Reader adds a new little icon to your browser. So here, Reader detected that I have Google Gears installed. If you don't have it installed, it will prompt you to install it if you want offline functionality. When I click on it, Reader will start synchronizing. What it's doing right now is that, hopefully if it can find the network. There we go. It's downloading my 2,000 most recent feeds. And once they're all downloaded, it can be used offline. So here we go. Now it's just done. And I can disconnect the network. Let's make sure that we're fully disconnected. Oops. There we go. All right. Oh, I'm cached. Let's make sure that we clear the cache here. There we go. No cache. Still have a network. OK. Oh, the wireless. There we go. One more try. It's hard to escape the network when you actually don't want it. There we go. All right. No network. That was the first feat, right? We need to make something that allows you to go off the network more conveniently. So now I come back to Google Reader. It still looks the same, but the main difference now is that it works offline. So I can go about looking at my feeds. So I can click around. Everything that got downloaded is available while I'm disconnected right now. And I can do things like, so all the core functionality, like for example, starring a message, adding tags, things like that are still available. And then when I will reconnect later, Google Reader will synchronize and restore state so that I can keep track of all the things like starred, et cetera. And so we have several sessions today about Google Gears. We updated the website last night, so if you checked it before that, you might want to look at the schedule that you have. So we have a session about Gears in this room right after this one. We have a fireside chat with the full team, so you can ask questions to the engineers who built the product. And finally, there's a session at the end of the day to talk about building applications that on top of toolkits that use Gears. So with that, I'll pass it back to Jeff.
Thanks, Othman. That's a really exciting new capability. And I know that I personally am really looking forward to Gmail and Calendar working offline. One of the things that we touched on earlier and that Othman doubled down on was this being an industry effort. We've been working very hard with folks across the industry to make sure that this is a standard that developers can work with once across all of the relevant platforms. So we've been working with Mozilla, Firefox, and specifically Brendan Eich and Mike Shaver are here with us today. They'll actually be participating in the fireside chat session later today. We've been working with Opera, who looks forward to working with Gears in the Opera browser, including their mobile browser across mobile phones. And with Adobe, who's excited about this model and its implications for Flash and Apollo. They're great web technologies. And in fact, Kevin Lynch, the CTO of Adobe and SVP of their platform business units, is here today and will tell us more about how Adobe is thinking about Gears. Kevin?
Thank you, Jeff. Hi. So what we have here is, I'm going to be showing from the Macintosh here, Gears running with Firefox, and then also the same local database access working on the desktop with Apollo. So we're really excited to be working on this with Mozilla and Google and the open source community. So here we have inside Firefox, a salesperson might have a dashboard showing the accounts that they're working with. And this was actually built with Flex. Flex is a free open source framework you can use to build this kind of really rich interface. And I can use this to search for accounts I'm working with here. I can bring up their information, double click and look at that. Now this is all coming from the server here. I can look at contact information. This is the Adobe organization. It's very fluid. And I can work with this here while I'm online. Now, also want to be able to work with this when I'm offline. And I've got a little SQL query thing I can use to show you what's in my local database here with Gears in the browser. And I can do a command here, select from account. So you can see there's actually nothing in that database right now because I'm getting all that live from the server. Now, if I synchronize the data with my local computer, that information now is stored on my machine. So if I do that same query, I get a bunch of data. Let me look at a particular column, so you can see that. There's my account name. So all that data that was coming from the server now is also cached on my computer. Now, one of the great things about that is that I can work with this data when I'm offline. So I'm going to go offline here in this application. Now I can use this wherever I am, and I can type in some new information, like change the company name if I want to. And I can save that. Now, if I go back and look at what's being stored in the local database on my computer, you can see that now it says Adobe Geared Up there. So that data has now been modified locally. And when I go back online, you can see it synchronizes that data, it goes back up to the server. So now I'm aligned on the server and my local storage. So this works really well inside the browser to make these really great experiences that you can take with you. Now, for some applications that you use really frequently, you might want to install them on your computer as a native desktop application. So you can do this here with this button on this web application called Install Desktop Version. And this is going to actually use Apollo to install this application on my computer. Now, you can build these applications using Flex like this, or you can use any web technology, any AJAX framework, any HTML UI that you've used to do that, you can use in this application. Now, this app actually runs on my computer. It's got the same data that we saw before. I can search. It's got that data I just edited there. And I can actually quit this application. And you can see that it's actually been installed on my computer here, Sales Builder. I can relaunch it from my desktop. Synchronizes whenever I launch it. You can see it's in the OS X dock. This is a native application. Looks just like a native app on the computer. This works on Windows and Mac and on Linux, and so you're going to be able to have these really integrated experiences on your machine. Now, one example of how you might take advantage of the native integration is actually dragging and dropping data from this application to your desktop. So here I've got a bunch of data, and I can just go ahead and drag that on my computer desktop. You can see it's created a native file on my computer. So we support live dragging and dropping from any other native application to Apollo and back. And you can output contact information, graphics, text, whatever you want to. In this case, spreadsheet information that I can launch in a desktop application here, and you can see it integrated. So Apollo is really enabling these applications to be first-class desktop applications. Using the same SQLite data store that you saw in the browser, you can actually use the same kind of approach to build these applications. And we've actually been working on this simultaneously with the Gears team, and we're now working to align our APIs. So as a developer, you'll be able to use the same API in the browser and on the desktop. And I think this local store capability is really critical for the next generation of rich internet applications. And so we're really excited to be working with Google and Mozilla and all of you to make this a reality. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Kevin. Looks like Adobe's going to be able to do some amazing things with Gears. So that leads us through the full journey of the Google developer products. First, how you can use Google's web services as building blocks to integrate in your applications and do amazing things for your users faster. Mashup Editor is the new entry in that today that makes it really simple to build mashups with a few lines of XML. Reach, how can you build traffic? How can you acquire users? How can you get your content in front of users? Maplets is the new entry today, where we're bringing the power of gadgets to maps to take that to the next level. Finally, with general tools for making this overall mashed up building block architecture work better and better. With Google Web Toolkit so that you can build applications scalably, and now with Gears so that you can take those applications offline, whether they're browser-based or whether they live in the desktop. For all of this, this is just a snapshot today. We're putting a lot of work and effort into this, so things are moving quickly. You can always stay in touch with us at code.google.com, where everything that we've talked about today is there in more detail. I would, just as we're wrapping up, or before we wrap up, would like to introduce, he's here somewhere, a very special guest, Sergey Brin, co-founder of Google, who is a big developer products fan. There he is.
Thank you, Jeff. Nice to see all of you here. I know we've had a lot of announcements today, but I'm left wondering with the same question that's on all of your minds. And that's these blocks behind me. Are they glued together, or are they actually stacked? And what are they made out of? They are actually stacked. I wonder if that's earthquake safe. We are in earthquake country. Now, I'm really excited to be speaking to you here today. And I think we've reached kind of a key point in the evolution of the internet. I'll tell you what I mean. If you're developing, for example, a compiler, there comes a time when the compiler, when you finally write it well enough that it can compile itself. Or if you're developing an operating system, you eventually get to the point where you can kind of boot it and then edit the code using it itself, and once again recompile it and reboot it, hopefully not lose it all. In all systems, eventually, they get to the sophistication that they can actually recreate themselves. And in the internet, you know, as you see with things like the mashup editor, it's no exception. You can create internet apps using internet apps today. But there's one key point that all of these systems involve. There's a step in there that's somewhat limiting. And that's that there's a person involved. You know, there's somebody who improves, you know, changes the compiler source code before they recompile it, and who improves the OS code or creates the mashup. So for the internet to be truly self-sustaining, you really need to get the person out of the loop. And that's why we've corralled all of you here in one room today. Now, I hate to spring this devious plot on you now. No, in truth, today the state of AI and whatnot, and we do lots of research in it, it's simply not good enough to do all of the great things that all of you do. But there's a second solution to the problem. You don't have to eliminate the person, you can create the person. And why is it exciting for me to mention that to you today? Because if you think about it, the web, which, well, like Mosaic, started in 1993, and the first online dating sites cropped up soon after that. And you figure by 95, the internet would have had essentially its first offspring, you know, whose mating was controlled by the internet in some sense. And today, that person is about 12 years old enough to be creating a maplet right now. So, in a sense, we've come full circle. And the internet is now producing the people that are, in turn, improving the internet. Now, we all know where that can take us. So, we have to be a little bit careful about you know, how we create our mashups and whatnot. And I want to just caution all of you. I mean, if you, for example, were to create you know, like a dating maplet or something like that, and it really took off, then the internet could go out of control. I mean, it would be creating so many people who would in turn be improving the internet and creating more maplets and whatnot. Anyway, I just wanted to convey to you a sense of caution and responsibility as you go about using these tools. But anyway, now that that brief side note is over, I want to also, on a more serious note, thank all of you. Because the internet really is what it is today. It's not actually sentient being on its own. But in fact, it's the work and labor of very many people, many of which are represented in this room today. And all of the great websites out there, all of the things you can reach from the Google web search, you know, the web search wouldn't be very good if there wasn't anything to search there to begin with. And it's really thanks to, well, both the people in this room and in rooms all around the world today who are participating in Developer Day, and of course the millions of people who are not, but will hopefully get a chance to tune in on the videos we post shortly afterward. It's all the people who are creating this great information and all the great services out there that make all the tools that you search and find them actually useful. And so I hope that the small things that we develop, that we present to you today, and the tools that we create, I hope that they can be useful. And we want to do as much as we can to repay the community that creates such a fantastic ecosystem for us to work in. So with that, thank you very much. We have some great sessions for you today, and please go and enjoy.
Yep. Thank you, Sergey. Oh, I got it. Yes. So yes, a huge thank you to all of you here today, to our developers around the world participating in Developer Day. I hope you get a sense of the just enthusiasm, excitement, the real sense of momentum that we see around this program and these activities. Specifically, if you could bring up the time slide, the last one. For those of you that are interested in Gears, you can stay right here. We'll be kicking off a session in Gears immediately following this, about 2 minutes ago. Mashup editor and maplets you can find in your schedule in the balance of the day. Just thank you again. I'll be here all day today for any questions you have. There's a bunch of Googlers around, engineers, product managers, to answer questions, and have an absolutely spectacular time. Thank you.